Mom, you're a loser. Karen is my real mother. The words hit me like a slap across the face. The clatter of forks and knives stopped cold. My daughter Emily froze with a spoonful of mashed potatoes halfway to her kids' plates. My grandkids stared wide-eyed, not understanding, but sensing the tension. And then there was Karen, my ex-husband's wife, sitting there with that smug little smile, like she'd just won some invisible trophy. If you're watching, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This story gets a lot more interesting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. But let me back up and tell you about what I went through and how the ending changed everything. My name is Susan Miller. I'm 58 years old. I've been a mother longer than I've been anything else. I worked double shifts. I skipped meals so my kids could eat. I poured my savings into rescuing them from one crisis after another. I thought that's what mothers did. I thought that's what love was. Giving, until there was nothing left of me. And for 30 years, I believed my son Jason would someday see that. But what he said that night at dinner, it didn't just break my heart. It showed me a truth I'd been too afraid to face. It was supposed to be a normal Sunday dinner. The kind of night I looked forward to all week. Emily had offered to host. The house smelled like garlic bread and roast chicken when I walked in. The kids were giggling in the living room, their cartoons humming in the background. I set my casserole down on the counter, kissed my daughter's cheek, and thought, just for a moment, that maybe tonight would feel like family. The dining room table was set beautifully, candles flickering, fresh flowers in a vase, the kind of warm, welcoming glow that makes you believe, even if just for a second, that everything is okay. We sat down, me, Emily, her husband, the kids, Jason, and of course, Karen. She arrived late, sweeping in like she was walking a runway, hair perfect, perfume clouding the air, lips painted the exact color of arrogance. She kissed Jason on the cheek like she owned him, then took her seat across from me. Dinner began with small talk. Emily asking the kids about school, me passing the rolls, trying to pretend that Karen's presence didn't make my stomach tighten. Jason was quiet at first, shoveling food into his mouth with that careless way he'd always had. And then, out of nowhere, he put his fork down, leaned back, and delivered the sentence that would change everything. Mom, you're a loser. Karen is my real mother. For a split second, I thought I'd misheard. Surely he hadn't said it. Surely no child would humiliate his mother in front of his whole family like that. But then, I saw the smirk tugging at Karen's lips, the way she rested her hand proudly on Jason's arm, like she was claiming him. And I knew. I had heard him right. The room went silent. You could have heard the clock ticking in the kitchen. Emily's cheeks flushed red, anger, shame, grief all tangled together. She opened her mouth, ready to say something, but Karen shot her a look sharp enough to slice. Emily shut her mouth, pressing her lips into a thin line, clutching her kids' shoulders a little tighter. My grandchildren sat frozen, forks in their tiny hands, eyes darting between us like they were watching a play they didn't understand. I'll never forget the confusion on their faces, like they were wondering why the grown-ups suddenly looked so scary. And me? I sat there like a statue, my chest heavy, my throat burning, but no words coming out. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to tell Jason every memory I carried, every sacrifice I had made. But instead, I just froze. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about what he said. It was about what it meant. It meant that all the nights I worked overtime so he could have gas money didn't matter. It meant the car I bought him after he lost his license didn't matter. It meant every time I bailed him out, financially, emotionally, legally, none of it mattered. To him, I wasn't a mother. I was a loser. And the worst part? Deep down, I knew why. Jason hadn't become entitled overnight. I had trained him that way. I had taught him, with every bailout and every rescue, that he didn't have to face the consequences of his actions. Because Mom would fix it. Mom would always fix it. And that night at the dinner table, I saw the result of my own choices staring back at me in his cold, dismissive eyes. I glanced at Emily, her jaw clenched, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. She wanted to defend me, I could see it, but she also didn't want to explode in front of her kids. Her pain mirrored mine. And Karen? She leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine, her expression smug. She'd been waiting for this moment, the moment Jason would cut me down in front of everyone and crown her as the real mother. I could practically hear the words she wasn't saying. He's mine now. You're nothing. Richard wasn't there. He rarely was. But I could imagine what he would have said if he had been. Calm, patronizing, dismissing my feelings like he always did. Probably defending Jason. Probably telling me not to overreact. I sat there in silence, but inside, something was shifting, cracking, awakening. For years, I had believed my role was to hold everything together, no matter how much it broke me. But as Jason's words echoed in the silence of that dinner table, I realized I wasn't holding a family together. I was holding myself hostage. Dinner carried on, awkwardly, after that. Jason went back to eating like nothing had happened. Karen kept smiling that smug little smile. Emily tried to keep the kids distracted, her voice a little too bright, too forced. And me? I barely tasted the food on my plate. I was lost in thought, drowning in memories of all the ways I had given until I had nothing left. But beneath the hurt, beneath the humiliation, there was something else brewing. Resolve. Because if Jason thought he had broken me that night, he was wrong. What he had really done was set me free. That Sunday dinner was the end of one chapter, and the beginning of another, one where I would stop being the safety net, one where I would stop being the loser, one where I would finally take my life back. The next morning, I put on a pair of jeans and my old gray hoodie, pulled my hair back, and drove straight to the house Jason was living in. The one I still owned. I didn't bother knocking. I had a key. Jason stumbled out of his bedroom, hair messy, still in last night's t-shirt. "Mom, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice thick with sleep. "Keys," I said flatly. "What?" "Keys to the house. Keys to the Camry. Hand them over." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You've lost it." That's when I dropped the stack of papers on the kitchen counter. Mortgage documents with my name on them. The bill of sale for the Camry. The automatic payment slips that had been draining my bank account for years to cover his life. "I own this house. I paid for that car, and I'm done being your safety net." His face went red, then pale. "You can't do this." "Watch me." I walked right past him, out the front door, and slid into the driver's seat of the Camry. My hands trembled as I turned the key, but when the engine roared to life, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Not power over him, but power over myself. For the first time in decades, I wasn't rescuing Jason. I was rescuing me. And as I pulled out of the driveway, leaving him standing there in disbelief, I knew this was just the beginning. The beginning of me finally taking my life back. That drive home in the Camry felt like a lifetime packed into 15 minutes. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles went white. The radio was on, some pop song humming through the speakers, but I didn't hear a word of it. My ears were full of Jason's voice echoing in my head. You're a loser. Karen is my real mother. I pulled into my driveway, parked the car, and just sat there for a long time. The silence wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, but inside my chest, it was chaos. Hurt, anger, disbelief, all crashing together. And under it all, this one sharp truth. I had let this happen. See, Jason didn't wake up one day and decide to be entitled. I trained him that way. Every time I paid off his mistakes, every time I said, "It's okay, honey, Mama will handle it," I was teaching him a lesson. And the lesson was, you don't have to take responsibility because Mom will always clean it up. That's what gutted me the most. Not just what he said, but knowing I'd had a hand in shaping the very man who could look me in the eye and dismiss me like that. I thought back to when he was 15, sulking in his room after getting grounded. He'd broken curfew again, out with friends who were always up to no good. I remember sitting on his bed, trying to reason with him, telling myself, if I just love him harder, he'll straighten out. But he didn't. Instead, he learned that love meant freedom from consequences. And then there was the night when he was 22, drunk, and arrested for disorderly conduct. I sat in the police station, signing paperwork with shaking hands, watching him crack jokes with the officer like it was all just a funny story to tell later. I should have left him there, but I didn't. I pulled out my credit card, bailed him out, and drove him home. He didn't say thank you. He never did. The memories piled on, one after another, like ghosts surrounding me in that parked car. Each one whispering, "You enabled this." I finally dragged myself inside, dropped my purse on the counter, and collapsed into the armchair by the window. The Camry keys jingled in my pocket, sharp and metallic, like a reminder of the line I had finally drawn. But with the relief came fear. What would Jason do without me? Would he crash harder than ever? Would he hate me forever? And a part of me, this wounded, loyal part, still wanted to protect him. Because that's what mothers do, right? We protect, even when it kills us. I was still lost in that swirl of emotions when my phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Mom?" Her voice was soft, cautious. "You okay?" "I don't know," I admitted, my throat tight. "I don't know if I did the right thing." Emily was quiet for a moment, then said, "Mom, you've been doing the right thing for him for 30 years. And look where it got you." Her voice cracked, like she was holding back tears. "It's about time you do the right thing for yourself." That broke me. I cried, loud, ugly sobs that shook my whole body. Emily didn't try to stop me. She just stayed on the line, letting me fall apart, because maybe that's what I needed, to stop being strong for once. Meanwhile, I could imagine Jason's face back at that house. Red with rage, pacing the living room, cursing my name. He wasn't used to being told no. He wasn't used to me walking away. And I bet Karen was right there, whispering poison in his ear, telling him how cruel I was, how unfair, how she'd never abandon him like that. Karen loved playing the savior when the mess was mine to clean. But now she'd have to prove it. And Richard, my ex-husband? I could already hear his voice in my head, calm, patronizing, telling me I was overreacting, that Jason just needed a little more time. Richard had always been quick to defend Jason, as long as I was footing the bill. But this wasn't about them anymore. This was about me. That night, I pulled out a shoebox I hadn't opened in years. Inside were old photos, Jason as a baby, pudgy and smiling in a blue onesie. Jason at 8, missing his front teeth, holding up a Little League trophy. Jason at 16, tall and lanky, arms slung around my shoulders like I was his best friend. I ran my fingers over those pictures, and the ache in my chest deepened. He had been my whole world once. Every paycheck, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. It all went into raising him. And now? He saw me as nothing. But staring at those photos, I realized something. I had given him enough of my life. Too much, maybe. And if I kept giving, there'd be nothing left of me. The next morning, I made a decision. I called the bank. "Hi," I said, voice steady. "I need to cancel all automatic payments connected to the property at 14 Cedar Lane." The woman on the line asked if I was sure, and for the first time in a long time, I was. "Yes, I'm sure." As I hung up, my phone started buzzing again. Jason, then Richard, then even Karen. I didn't answer, not yet, because for once, I wasn't their problem solver. For once, I was free. The phone calls kept coming that morning, one after another, like an alarm I couldn't shut off. First Jason, then Richard. Then even Karen's number flashing across the screen. I let them all go to voicemail. My coffee sat untouched on the counter, gone cold, but my resolve was hot and steady. When I finally picked up, it was Jason. His voice thundered through the line before I even said hello. "Mom, what the hell are you doing?" "I can't make the mortgage without you. I can't." I cut him off. "That's not my problem anymore, Jason." There was a pause. The kind of pause that tells you someone isn't used to hearing no. "You're my mother," he spat. "You don't just walk away. You raised me to rely on you, and now you're just... What? Leaving me in the dirt? That's messed up." I actually laughed, a short, bitter laugh. "Raised you to rely on me?" "Jason, I raised you to take care of yourself. You're the one who twisted that into a free pass." "Don't do this, Mom. Please." Karen says. And there it was. The mention of her name lit a fire in my chest. "Karen says what?" I snapped. "She says you're being vindictive. That you just want to make me suffer because you're jealous. That you're bitter, bitter?" I repeated, the word sour on my tongue. "I bought you a car. I paid for your house. I covered your bills while you sat on the couch pretending you were too good for a 9-to-5. And I'm bitter?" Jason went quiet. Then, low and mean, he muttered, "Karen treats me better than you ever did." I slammed my mug down on the counter so hard it cracked. "Then let Karen pay your damn bills." And I hung up. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from adrenaline. Years of swallowed anger finally clawing its way out. Not 10 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. Hard, relentless. When I opened it, there stood Richard, my ex-husband. Same pressed shirt, same cologne he's worn since 1995. Same calm, patronizing tone. "Susan," he began, stepping inside like he still owned the place. "We need to talk." "I don't think we do," I said, crossing my arms. He sighed, the way he always did when I didn't fall in line. "Look, Jason's made mistakes, sure. But you pulling the rug out from under him now? That's not parenting. That's cruelty." "Parenting?" I shot back. "Parenting ended when he turned 30. What I've been doing since then is charity. And I'm done being a charity case he cashes in on." Richard's jaw tightened. "You're punishing him because you hate Karen." "Admit it?" I almost laughed in his face. "You think this is about Karen?" "This is about a grown man who still thinks Mommy's checkbook is his life raft. And you..." I jabbed a finger at him. "You stood by and let him believe it." Richard's calm cracked then, his voice rising. "If he fails, it's on you, Susan. You cut him off. He goes under. That's on you." I stepped closer, so close he had to look me straight in the eyes. "No, Richard. If he goes under, it's on him, and maybe on the people who coddled him while I broke my back to keep him afloat." He blinked first, He always did. Before he could respond, another voice rang out from the doorway. Karen. Perfect timing. She strutted in without waiting to be invited, heels clicking on the hardwood like gunshots. Really, Susan? She sneered, tossing her designer purse on my table. What kind of mother evicts her own son? The kind who's tired of being used, I said coolly. She gave a high-pitched laugh. You just can't stand that he prefers me, can you? That I'm the one he turns to, not you. You've always been pathetic, Susan. And now everyone sees it. My blood boiled, but I didn't flinch. Funny, I said. Because last I checked, you were perfectly happy letting my bank account raise your stepson. But don't worry, now you'll have the chance to prove what a great, real mother you are. Her smile faltered, just for a second. But Jason appeared behind her, face flushed, eyes wild. Give me the keys back, he demanded. I held them up, dangling. The metal glinted in the sunlight. These? Number. They're mine. Always were. He lunged forward like he might snatch them, but I stepped back. Jason, I said, voice steady. Listen to me. I'm not your enemy, but I will not be your ATM anymore. You want respect? Earn it. You want stability? Build it. You want a car? Buy your own damn car. His lip curled. You'll regret this. I'll make sure of it. Karen clutched his arm like some bad actress in a soap opera. Don't waste your breath on her, Jason. She's just a bitter old woman with nothing left. Something in me snapped then. Not anger, not grief, but clarity. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us. You're right, Karen, I said softly, almost kindly. I have nothing left to give. And that's exactly why I'm finally free. And with that, I shut the door in their faces. For the first time in years, I felt taller, stronger, whole. But I also knew one thing. This battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The morning after that showdown at my front door, I walked into the bank with a folder under my arm. My heart was racing, but my steps were steady. The building smelled like lemon polish and stale air conditioning. A young teller with bright red lipstick greeted me, her cheerful, "How can I help you today?" almost making me laugh. If only she knew. I need to cancel all automatic payments connected to 14 Cedar Lane, I said. My voice didn't shake, thank God. Her fingers clicked across the keyboard. All of them? Yes, I answered firmly. Every last one. She nodded politely, but I could feel her curiosity prickling. People don't usually cut off their mortgage, utilities, and insurance all in one breath. But she didn't ask questions, just printed a stack of forms for me to sign. Each signature felt like carving my initials into stone. Permanent. Final. With every stroke of the pen, I imagined another chain snapping off me. When it was done, I walked back out into the sunlight. The air felt different. Lighter. Sharper. I pulled out my phone, stared at the black screen, and almost wished it would ring. I didn't have to wait long. Jason. I answered, mostly because I wanted to hear his reaction. You did it, didn't you? His voice was hoarse, ragged. Yes, I said, calm. You're insane. Do you know what this means? They'll foreclose on me. They'll take the house. Correction, I said evenly. They'll foreclose on my house. You're just a guest there, a very ungrateful one. There was a silence, then a roar. You're destroying me. No, Jason, I said, voice soft but cutting. You're destroying yourself. I'm just stepping out of the way. He cursed, loud, vulgar words that once would have cut me in half. But now, they just rolled off me like rain on glass. I hung up before he finished. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. This time, Richard. Susan, what the hell did you do? His voice was sharp, the calm long gone. I did what I should have done years ago. "You're punishing him for your own failures," he snapped. "My failures?" I shot back. "You mean raising a boy alone while you played house with Karen? You mean working double shifts to keep the lights on while you lectured me about being too soft? Don't you dare put this on me." He exhaled hard, then dropped his voice. "Listen, the bank called Jason. He's panicking. Karen's panicking. Do you really want to see your own son on the street?" "Yes," I said simply. "If that's what it takes for him to finally stand up on his own 2 feet." Richard swore under his breath. "You'll regret this." But for the first time in 30 years, I didn't believe him. By the afternoon, the storm had spread. Karen called me directly, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Do you realize what you've done?" she hissed. "You've ruined everything. The house, the shop, Jason's reputation." "The shop," I repeated. Her silence lasted just a beat too long. That's when I remembered something Emily had mentioned months ago. Karen's little boutique. Overpriced handbags, endless social media photos, big promises about exclusive imports. But Emily had said the numbers never added up. Now, hearing Karen's panic, the pieces clicked together. "Oh," I said slowly, savoring it. "So the shop's in trouble too." Funny how everything crumbles once my money isn't propping it up. "You're a vindictive witch," Karen spat. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm just finally done playing the fool." I hung up and sat in the silence. My hands were trembling again, but not from fear. This time, it was adrenaline. Something told me I hadn't even seen the half of their mess. That night, Emily came over. She brought a bottle of wine, set it on the counter, and pulled me into a hug. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she whispered. "Then why do I feel like I've just declared war?" "Because you have," she said simply. We sat at the table, sipping wine, while the kids played in the living room. I told her about Karen's slip with the shop. Emily's eyes narrowed. "I bet she's been hiding stuff." "Tax stuff? I've heard rumors." My stomach turned, but not from fear this time, from possibility. "Maybe it's time I stopped playing defense," I murmured. "Maybe it's time they got a taste of real consequences." Emily leaned in, voice low. "You have every right. They've walked all over you long enough I didn't sleep that night." My mind spun with images. Jason shouting, Karen's smug smile cracking, Richard's empty threats. For years, they'd controlled the story. I was the weak one, the loser, the pathetic ex-wife who couldn't let go. But now? Now I held the pen, and I was ready to write a different ending. The letter came 2 weeks later. Thick envelope, government seal in the corner. IRS. I held it in my hands like a ticking bomb. For a second, I thought it was mine, some punishment for finally standing up for myself. But when I slid it open and skimmed the first page, my stomach flipped. It wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Karen Sanders, owner of Luxe Boutique. Tax audit. I couldn't help it. I laughed, a deep, sharp laugh that startled even me. All those years she strutted around, dripping in designer clothes, sneering at me like I was beneath her. Turns out, her kingdom was built on sand. I called my lawyer, Laura. Calm, steady Laura. The kind of woman who never raised her voice, but still made people sit up straighter. "Bring it in," she said. "If she's been cooking the books, it won't just be ugly, it'll be public." And public it was. Within days, word spread like wildfire. Karen's boutique, the one she'd paraded around as proof of her success, was under federal investigation. Her social media went quiet. No more champagne toasting photos, No more hashtag boss lady hashtags. Jason, meanwhile, was unraveling. I know because he showed up at my place one evening, pounding on my door until I opened. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice raw. "You ruined everything," he shouted. "They're closing the shop. We're broke. Do you understand what you've done?" "What I've done?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I didn't tell Karen to cheat the IRS. I didn't tell you to live off my money like a parasite. Those were your choices." "You think you're better than us?" he spat. I shook my head slowly. "No, Jason. I just finally realized I don't have to be worse because of you." He sagged against the doorway, eyes glassy. For a second, I thought I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who held my hand when he crossed the street. But then Karen's voice screeched from the car parked at the curb. "Jason, get in! Don't waste your breath on her!" He straightened, rage washing back over him, and stormed off. The car door slammed. Tires squealed, and I stood there, strangely calm, because I knew this wasn't my mess to fix. Not anymore. The next week, the eviction notice went up on the house at 14 Cedar Lane. Bright orange paper plastered to the door for the whole neighborhood to see. Emily called me, breathless. "Mom, people are talking." "Neighbors say Jason's been screaming at Karen in the driveway. They're embarrassed. Everyone's watching." I closed my eyes, breathing in the quiet satisfaction. For years, I had been the embarrassed one. The whispered gossip, the pitying looks. Now? The spotlight had shifted. A few days later, Laura and I sat in her office, the eviction papers spread out between us. She adjusted her glasses, tapped the documents. "Legally, Susan, you're clean." The house was always yours. Cutting off payments was your right. The IRS case against Karen? That's separate, but it only strengthens your position. You've protected yourself. I swallowed hard. "So it's really over?" Laura gave a small smile. "Over for you. For them? It's just beginning." And she was right. Within weeks, Karen's boutique shut down. The IRS froze her accounts. Her friends vanished like smoke. The woman who once posted daily about her glamorous life disappeared from every platform. Jason, stripped of the house, the car, the money, tried calling me again. This time, his voice wasn't angry. It was broken. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said at dinner. I didn't know what else to do. I need you." My throat tightened. The mother in me wanted to reach through the phone, cradle him, make it all better. But I gripped the counter and said, "Jason, apologies don't pay debts. And they don't erase years of disrespect. You need to stand on your own." Now there was silence on the line. Then a choked sob, and the click of him hanging up. I set the phone down gently, exhaling a shaky breath. It hurt. God, it hurt. But it also healed something inside me, because I finally understood. Loving someone doesn't mean saving them from themselves. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let them fall. Weeks later, at Emily's house, we had another family dinner. The grandkids giggled over spaghetti. Emily poured me a glass of wine. And then the doorbell rang. It was Jason. He stood there, thinner, quieter, eyes downcast. Karen wasn't with him. He stepped inside like a man walking on glass. I wanted to say I'm sorry," he murmured. "For real this time." The room went still. My heart thudded. I nodded slowly. "Thank you, Jason." "I accept your apology." He looked up, hope flickering. "But," I added firm, "that doesn't mean we go back to the way things were. I love you. I always will. But my wallet, my house, my car, that's not love. If you want me in your life, it has to be built on respect. Nothing else. He swallowed hard, then nodded. For once, he didn't argue. We sat down at the table. Emily passed him a plate. The grandkids whispered, curious. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because I wasn't broken anymore. I had gone from the woman humiliated at her own dinner table to the woman who finally reclaimed it. And that, I realized, was worth every painful step. The weeks that followed felt strange, like learning how to walk again after carrying a heavy weight for so long. I kept waiting for the guilt to come crashing back, for the shame to creep in, for that old, familiar urge to fix everything. But it didn't. Instead, I found myself enjoying small things I hadn't noticed in years. A quiet cup of coffee in the morning without my phone buzzing with Jason's emergencies. An evening walk in the neighborhood where I could actually breathe instead of calculating how many bills I needed to cover. Even the sound of silence in my own home felt new, peaceful, not empty. For the first time, my life belonged to me. One Saturday, Emily invited me over for another family dinner. No tension, no hidden daggers behind polite smiles. Just spaghetti, laughter, and the kids showing off their messy crayon drawings. When Jason showed up this time, he was different. He didn't storm in. He didn't sneer. He looked tired, humbled, even a little scared. He hugged Emily first, kissed the kids on the head, and when he turned to me, he just said softly, "Hi, Mom." I nodded. "Hi, Jason." There were no dramatic speeches, no instant forgiveness. Just a start. And maybe that was enough. Because here's the truth I've learned. Relationships don't heal overnight. Apologies don't erase years of entitlement. Love doesn't mean endless sacrifice. Love means boundaries. Love means honesty. And sometimes, love means saying no. That night, as I sat at Emily's table watching my grandchildren laugh, I realized something important. For years, I had believed my worth as a mother was tied to how much I gave. Money, time, energy. If I wasn't pouring myself out, I thought I was failing. But I see now, that was never love. That was fear. Fear that if I stopped giving, I wouldn't be needed. And if I wasn't needed, maybe I wasn't loved. Jason's cruel words at that dinner table, "You're a loser. Karen is my real mother." They broke me. But in breaking me, they freed me. Because I finally saw the truth. Love that's demanded isn't love at all. It's dependency dressed up as devotion. I remember driving that Camry away from his house, heart pounding, hands trembling, thinking I might regret it. But sitting here now, I know it was the moment I took my life back. Richard still calls sometimes. He always starts with that same patronizing tone, telling me I've gone too far, that Jason will never forgive me. And maybe he's right. Maybe Jason never will. But that's his burden to carry, not mine. Karen? Well, Karen's boutique is gone. The IRS doesn't play games. She vanished from social media, from cocktail parties, from the smug little circle that once cheered her on. Funny how fast the world turns when money runs out. And Jason? He's learning. Slowly. He's not the golden boy he imagined himself to be. But maybe, just maybe, losing everything was the only way he could find himself. As for me, I've stopped measuring my worth in how much I sacrifice. I measure it in peace, in laughter with my daughter, in quiet mornings, in knowing that I finally put my own oxygen mask on first. I know there are mothers out there who'll hear my story and whisper, "I could never do that. I could never cut off my child." I used to be one of them. But let me tell you this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do for your child is to stop saving them. Sometimes the most loving word you can say is no. Because love without respect will drain you dry. And respect only comes when you stand tall, even if your knees are shaking. So here I am. Not the loser my son once called me. Not the savior I once pretended to be. Just Susan. A mother, yes. But also a woman. Whole, strong, free. And that, my friend, is more than enough. Ngat dai. Funny thing is, when I look back now, I don't just see the humiliation at that dinner table. I see the turning point. The night my son thought he was breaking me, he was really setting me free. So, if you've ever been called a loser, if you've ever been overlooked, dismissed, taken for granted, let me be living proof. Sometimes the only way to win is to finally walk away.